am Shipra Dashbi. I am serving this department for the last 25 years. The rest of the rest about me you will get from my website. Now today's topic is overview of DTN and research avenues. Although before going to the DTN and research avenues, I will start. Starting from next generation network, it will be overview, and then we will go to the DTN. I have organized my presentation in this manner that WSN and its role in post-disaster scenario. This is the part 1, and part 2, delay tolerant network. Of course, delay tolerant network again in post-disaster scenario. But I don't know, time is very short, and that's why I apprehended that, and accordingly only I have given the name as DTN. Now, under the both of this topic, introduction, characteristic and application, then role of WSN and role of DTN in this post-disaster scenario, and research issues will be simply mentioned, not discussed because time is very short. So this is basically, you see, so this is an overview of USN, ubiquitous sensor network. Now please note that this particular system has 4 different layers or 3 different layers. One is the bottom layer. Bottom layer is sensor networks, RFID, USN, etc. The middle layer, that is the next generation network, and then the service layer, the USN middleware, and finally the application and the services. Now, what do you mean by next generation network? See, by definition, that what is beyond telecommunication, you can define it as a next generation network. Means, if you consider the conventional telecom network, so in the conventional telecom network, if you go beyond that, means if you consider voice or IP network, all IP, voice over IP, quality of service in this particular type of network, all those things belong to the category of next generation network. So the idea of next generation network is that to make the other services independent of the network. So I will start in this lecture from the bottom layer, that is the sensor network, and the bottom layer, the sensor network. So otherwise, if I simply start by sensor network, then it may be difficult for you to realize where is the relevance of sensor network here. Right from the morning, you have heard smartphone and smartphone. See, I can tell you very frankly that I don't carry any smartphone. I neither know how to operate it. See, I am also the citizen of India. So, what to do? So, for me there is nothing. So, I want to point out that significant number of people in a country like India still carry these low-end devices. So, is there anything there is anything so that we can give for them who carries this low-end cell phone? So, we undertook a research in this department a couple of years back when this project was not there. So, how to revive communication with the help of simple wireless sensor network mode, because at that time we had only few modes in our laboratory. So, sensor network modes, how to revive communication when partially or fully cellular communication is destroyed. So, that I will show through the test bed and that the research behind it. Now, before that, so even if you consider a tiny device like sensor mode, that with the help of those modes also, you will be able to do something to contribute towards this next generation network idea. Not only through the help of smartphone, because what will happen to us who do not know how to operate a smartphone, neither I possess any smartphone. I am scared about smartphones, frankly speaking. So what to do for us? So next generation network, see the key cornerstone of the NGN is the basic principle or basic idea to give through next generation network is decoupling of services and network. So you just recap the services and the layers. So the main idea is to decouple the services and the network to be offered separately. This basically consists of 4 parts. You see, if you go back, service network, core network. Service network, core network, and again access network, user equipment. So in this lecture, I shall concentrate on the last one, the last layer, that is the user equipment, and to be more specific, that I will concentrate on first the wireless sensor network. Now, another thing is that the concept of delay, why is the topic is delay tolerant network? Yes, delay tolerant network, I will elaborately discuss what is the principle of delay tolerant network if time permits. But before that, the delay tolerant network means you can employ the concept of delay tolerant network at the last layer. If the protocol is changed accordingly, then it will behave like delay tolerant. Not necessarily that your nodes will be smartphone. It may be a laptop, it may be a palm top, it may be any personal devices, including wireless sensor network modes. So you can have a delay tolerant network with time. So we will mainly concentrate on the bottom layer. So very, quickly we'll see an overview of WSN. That this is the diagram of WSN. You see that short-range radio communication, miniaturization of computing devices, and the network consists of MEMS-based sensor nodes communicate to the external world via base station. I think by now you have understood through the diagram that what is the one. So from the field, it sends the data. The data may be scalar data like temperature, humidity, etc. It may be multimedia data like audio, video, image. So it can the modes deployed in the field, it senses the data from the environment, and through the sync node it sends into the outside world. Now, characteristic of sensor nodes is integrated wireless transceiver, small size, easily blend with the environment, one or more sensor like temperature, magnetic or light. Sensor node limited in energy. These are the limitations: energy, computation, storage, transmission energy, bandwidth. Because in the today's our director was talking about that the energy scarcity. So it's really true for any low power device. It's true for sensor devices as well. Now this is the Mica 2 sensor node. I've given the diagram. Basically, sensor node is equal to sensor board plus processor or radio mode. Our interest is on processor or radio mode. But if you put a sensor, your mode on a board, then it becomes sensor node. So you see the different shapes of sensor nodes are available. So S plus M, we consider in a research paper, if you see the sensor node, it means the board plus mode, both the things. Mode means the microcontroller, transceiver, these things are there, and sensor means only that it has the capability with the ADC controller and all that take the data from the environment. This is a typical diagram of sensor node, very small size, battery. These are the typical specification. Sensor board looks like this. You note it carefully that in this sensor node, that light sensor, many other sensors you may attach with this. Accelerometer, magnetometer, everything is there. Multimedia mode is also available nowadays. Multimedia mode means audio, image and video processing capability. Now, this is a bigger, the diagram is bigger. Why? Because this is an indigenously manufactured sensor mode. From a Kolkata based company we have purchased this. Now, we have experimented in this CST department laboratory with this kit, this Atmega 324 PA weight kit, wireless explore kit, and this. So these a number of these modes are available in our department, and with the help of these modes, we have done a research work. Means that what I was talking about, that what researcher will do for us, like who carry these low-end devices. So how to divide communication through these modes using this, when cellular communication fails. This is the weight specification. See, typically this specification, CPU, RAM, etc. specification I have got from the specification sheet or data sheet, but size I have manually, I have measured the size by scale, and it becomes 10 centimeter plus 9 centimeter. Unlike the, if you go for commercially available modes, these are smaller size. This is a bigger one, but the cost is very low. That's why we could afford here. This is a very block diagram of these components within a node. You see the sensor, ADC, analog to digital converter, processor, memory, transceiver. Transceiver means transmitter plus receiver. These are the basic blocks within a sensor node. But you see, please note carefully that 3 dotted blocks are also there. One is location finding system, the other is mobilizer, the other is power generator. These dotted blocks basically means the additional attachment. So the basic, other than basic blocks, if one, for a typical application, if one wants the location finding system, then these dotted blocks need to be attached. The cost will be higher. Similarly, if one need to have the mobility, limited mobility with that node, then mobilizer modules need to be attached. And the power generator again, if the application demands and if we can afford that additional power generator, maybe they are like solar and all. These are all additional attachment. Now, all OSI layers are not needed in this particular communication protocol. All of you are familiar with OSI layers, that is 7 layers. But in case of this type of communication, you can concentrate only on the lower layers like MAC, physical and all. Up to network, not the upper layers are not so important. You see again the same diagram means from the, maybe that these nodes are deployed in a battlefield area. So you can see that it can sense the enemy, and accordingly you see the path is shown through bold lines, and it goes to the outside here, the presence of enemy in the typical application. Now, network versus individual sensor. You see, the individual sensor, long back there was a concept of individual sensor. Even in our childhood we saw Nabilla Technological Museum that their concept of sensor was there. Some demo was there of sensor. If you extend your hand, then water poured from a pot. But what is new is network. Networking with sensor. That is the new concept. Sensor is not a new thing. It was there in long back. So with the help of this sensor networking, you can cover a wide area of operation, multiple nodes close to each other, increase fault tolerance, means most of the application demand that it will be open field application, and in that open field application you see you cannot give the guarantee that all the nodes will be carefully deployed. Maybe some of them will be lost, maybe power will go off. So multiple nodes will be there, and if one goes down, then other will take care. The improved accuracy, sensor nodes collaborate and combine. These terminologies are very important, like collaborate and combine their data to increase accuracy of sense data. So that is very important. That is a self-organizing network, sometimes we call it. Self-organizing means the typical nature of this type of network is, unlike the conventional network, there is no router. There is no central control. Rather, the nodes in a self-organized manner, they take care each of, among themselves. So, in a collaborative manner, they communicate among themselves. They, depending on application, and accordingly not only they generate the self data, but they help their neighbors node to communicate, to forward the data sensed by their neighboring nodes. Extended functionality, sensor nodes can not only perform sensing functionality but also provide forwarding service. Means node, help neighboring nodes to forward their data as well. That's why it is called collaborative network sometimes. Different applications, civilian, military. These are the diagrams of these different applications like medical application, industrial control, consumer means smart home, and not only open field application but also indoor applications are also there. For fire detection, this is not only this is not very relevant in our country, but it's a country like US. This is very important application. Temperature control in industrial vent. So I'm skipping this very quickly. Now role of WSN in reviving communication. Communication in post-disaster scenario. You see the diagram is self-explanatory. Earlier you have cell phones. Due to some reason the tower has gone off. Then the person is thinking how to communicate. Okay? So the diagram is self-explanatory. How to revive communication if the local tower goes off. You see the red nodes is the ZigBee node. ZigBee means the protocol of sensor. And ZigBee GSM means some of the mode we have in our laboratory, which is called dual radio node, which has capacity of GSM as well as ZigBee. Now you see the red nodes are ZigBee and the blue nodes are ZigBee GSM dual mode. Now we have organized our test bed like this. What is shown in the diagram. You see the mobile device is trying to communicate. First it will ask whether there is a GSM signal available or not. It asks, it finds that. Yes. If it is yes, then it can go. If it is yes, then there is no problem. It will communicate to the nearby GSM base station, and all of you know through the, in layman's terminology, it is tower. So through the tower the signal will go. If it is not present, means GSM base station is out of order due to some disaster or many other reason it goes out of order. So what to do? GSM signal available? No. Then what it will do? It will try to communicate, you see, through other nodes deployed nearby. Node 5, node 6. What are those node 5 and node 6? These are the ZigBee mode. The wake kit I have shown. Try to recap. The wake kit I have shown. Then through that wake kit node 5 and node 6, the signal goes. Then GSM signal available, again it asks. If it is available, yes, then again it will communicate to the nearby towers. What happens if the second tower also goes out of order? GSM signal available in this scenario? No. It will go in previous manner through node 2. GSM signal available. Again. So I think from this PPT you have understood how the signal goes. Whenever the local tower goes out of order, it will try to communicate in other mode and try to communicate. But where is the challenge? The challenge is your mobile device is not so smart. Your mobile device is not so smart. Again, I am talking about. It's very low-end mobile phone. So what to do? So we have designed a CPE, cell phone extension module. What is the CPE? With the help of DTMF decoder, we have designed a CPE, and it has been attached with that low-end phone. And that has the capability that if there is no GSM signal, then it will broadcast a message, and whoever in the vicinity will check. And that is received by the nearby WSL modes. Okay. Now, in this particular test-bed setup, we have not followed any. We have not tried to find out any appropriate routing protocol. Rather, we have used the existing routing protocol, very primitive routing protocol. With the help of this, we have prepared the testbed, because as you know that to prepare the testbed it takes much time. Now, these particular setups I will show you through a video. It will be more vividly explained through that video.
GSM chip and a ZigBee chip, and in the ZigBee node there is a single ZigBee radio chip. So, we have used very low-end cell phones for transmitting messages. This is a source cell phone, and that one is the destination cell phone. So we are actually trying to transmit a message from the source cell phone to the destination cell phone whenever the cellular infrastructure is absent in the cell phone, source cell phone. Now we have designed a cell phone extension. So the prototype of the cell phone extension is shown here. So we have used a ZigBee node for the cell phone extension, and here is the DTMF decoder, which is connected to the mobile phone over an audio cable. So the DTMF decoder decodes the DTMF tones received from the mobile phone, and gives an output which is fed to the input to the, which is fed to the microcontroller of this ZigBee node. Now I am going to show you the actual transfer of message from the mobile phone. Now the user has to input two numbers. First the source cell phone number, and next the destination cell phone number. Suppose I am giving input my own number. Next, the user has to give input the destination cell phone number. So here is the first number is the source cell phone number, the second number is the destination cell phone number. Now the message has been generated. So this node has received that message. Now that message is forwarded to the dual-native node opportunistically, and we can see here that the green light is blinking. That means this dual-native node is having a JSON connection, so it will try to send that message to the destination mobile phone. So here we can see a message has been received in this cell phone. So here is a message that was transmitted from the mobile device, source mobile device, and we can see that we have successfully received the message. So this shows that in absence of JSON connection in a cell phone, we can transmit a message over the personal area network, which is built upon the several GP nodes. And suppose here is one per radio node which is not having a JSON connection, so we just forwarded that message towards the parent GP node. So that GP node again forwarded that message to the another dual radio node, and because that dual radio node was having a JSON connection, so that dual radio node transmitted that message to the destination cell phone. So, and we have seen that the message was actually received in that destination cell phone. So we have successfully shown that it is possible to transmit a message from the cell phone to another cell phone via wireless personal area network. Thank you.
So I think it's a viable option and something to do for the people who are very low in cell phone in them. So maybe the new people do not need it, but maybe the new people do need it, this type of facility. And I can tell you this is a very laboratory prototype. So we have idea that to make it viable in real life, and of course this is not very feasible because it's not very feasible because the communication range is not very. So many. A huge number of modes you have to deploy in that case randomly, air-linked probably, air-dropped. So it may not be feasible in real life in case of disaster. So we have idea that we can extend this particular concept, replacing the mode by smartphone, because we cannot deny the today's citizen. So we can replace, if we can replace the wireless mode by smartphone, then it will be a probably viable solution. Now, so try to again recap that NGN layer architecture. So in the bottom layer we have seen that wireless sensor network, RFID, USN, all these things are there. So a brief overview of what we can do with the help of wireless mode, sensor mode in post-disaster scenario that we have shown. Now we will go to the next part, that is you see what you have observed in demo. The same setup is shown here. Now the research issues in this particular area is that we have done research on deployment, clustering and routing. Of course, under the broad topic of energy saving. In today's director's lecture, you have come to know that energy is a very scarce resource in this particular area, and so energy saving, whatever you will design, maybe it's a routing protocol, maybe it's a data forwarding protocol, or maybe it's deployment. Right from the beginning, the researcher need to care about that energy saving aspect. So we did research on deployment energy saving, means during deployment, the deployment should be energy saving. For clustering, means, as you know, clustering again itself is a energy saving concept of deployment and routing. Many other research area may be there in energy saving, where you can employ the energy saving criteria, but we did work on these three topics in this particular department. And second is low overhead securing techniques. Means we did some research on again low overhead securing techniques. Why low overhead? Because again the same thing, the devices are battery powered and limited in energy. So whatever we design, maybe a securing techniques, conventional securing techniques will not be used, cannot be used rather I should say. So low overhead securing techniques, we have done some research. Next, currently we have started research on low overhead multimedia data processing. And as you know, multimedia means audio, image, video. We have done some work on audio processing. We have collected data of audio from Road Research Institute, National Road Research Institute from New Delhi, and taken data from that of road traffic. We tried to find out that the solution about low overhead designing of multimedia data processing, means audio data. Everywhere you see, note it carefully that energy saving or low overhead, these are the very two key terms in case of this any research area of this low power communication network. And lastly, we have, as the project has started, so we have started working on reviving communication with the help of this MOS. So with this, the part 1 discussion is finished. The next part is part 2, that is delay tolerant network. Now you see the delay tolerant network, for the last 1.5 years only we have started doing work on delay tolerant network. It was a very new term for us also 1.5 years back. Now, so in the part 2 lecture, only I have emphasized on up to what we have done in this particular department. Many other vast research issues are there, delay tolerant network. So maybe that in future we will be able to explore all those issues. But here we will restrict ourselves in this particular lecture on the what are the issues we have touched. The introduction of delay tolerant network means, before going to delay tolerant network, all of you are familiar that assumptions of internet usability. You know, if you want to have internet, then these are the underlying assumptions. What is the assumption? That continuous bidirectional end-to-end path. Agreed? Otherwise internet will not work. Next is short round trips. Milliseconds, not hours or days. Agreed? The third point is symmetric data rates in both directions. And the fourth, last one is low error rate on each link. These are the underlying assumptions of having internet connections. Now, many evolving and potential communication environments do not conform to the internet's underlying assumptions. All the 4 assumptions we made for the internet to work may not be, for some application in real life we have seen where these assumptions are not valid. Let us see what are those type of applications. So, in case of delay tolerant networks, unlike internet, the very long delay path.
network should accommodate very long delay paths. Frequent network partitions means if a node has data ready to be communicated, maybe that there is no forwarding node through which it will be forwarded. So for the time being, it will have to hold the data, and maybe it is day, hours, not milliseconds. Dynamic network topology. So as we are talking about devices which has mobility like smartphone, people will carry the smartphone, people will move, volunteers will move, rescue workers will move in case of disaster management application. So definitely the smartphones will move. So the nodes has the mobility characteristic. So as the mobility characteristic is there, so definitely the network is dynamic topology network. And low node density. What do you mean by low node density means? Maybe that for the time being, a node has a data to communicate, but in the vicinity there is no forwarder node. Sparse density, not dense. Maybe no worker or no volunteer have appeared in the vicinity of that particular volunteer who is carrying the mobile, but he has to send some data. That's why it is low node density means, unlike sensor network, the density of the node, people carrying the gadget, sometimes it may be dense. If many people gathered, assembled in one place, then it becomes a dense network. But sometimes it may be sparse. Now traditional routing schemes are inapplicable in TTNs. Why? Because unpredictable node mobility you cannot predict, you cannot control even. Absence of end-to-end path means the node may not get any neighboring node to forward its data. Potential applications of this delay tolerant network: interplanetary communication in space. This particular application I have simply copied from net. I don't have any idea how it works and what is it. Okay, so I can say please keep this. Next is military operation. Our focus is not on even that. Third one is SOC-based services and activities. SOC-based service-oriented computing. Now what do you mean by service-oriented computing? These are the two typical examples we have jotted down here. One is disaster relief in devastated regions, the other is post-disaster situation analysis. Relief is one aspect, it's a part of disaster situation analysis, but for many other reasons, the disaster situation analysis is required. And the last one is low-cost communication solutions in rural and remote areas. Now this is a typical DTN scenario. You see, through internet, the CTA is connected, company or industry or organization is connected, operator O is connected, one university is connected. But you see, two of the users, one is user S, other is user D, source and destination, they are not connected. And see, note it carefully, the lightning symbol means wireless communication. And one interesting vehicle is there, one bus, transport. Bus is moving with some small tiny device along with it, fitted with that bus, and it is moving from user S towards the internet. So what does it mean? Internet connectivity. So it means it is taking the data from user S and it is going so that it can be delivered. It can be connected to the internet. The another part of this diagram you see, user D, that is the destination. Again through internet, one bus is moving from the internet connectivity direction towards the user D who is remotely connected. So the source user is sending some data, maybe that in between some internet connectivity is there or not, but we call it the concept of mule, data mule, that is with moving vehicle, the data is being carried out, but not instantaneously, rather after some period, maybe twice a day, the bus is moving from remote area to the connected area. So you have realized the typical characteristic it should have a related network, and it is completely different from our day-to-day connected network like internet or like any other conventional network. Now, for the last 1 year, we have concentrated on taking this related network into consideration, the data forwarding, and to be more specific, the data forwarding we have suggested that it needs to be social based. So what is social based? I am not the expert of social science. Still, we have borrowed the idea from social science. So many approaches of data forwarding exist, like flooding based. All of you are familiar with flooding based routing protocol. So and other is prediction based. So existing data forwarding techniques in delay-tolerant network, typical techniques are tagging based or prediction based. But what we have realized that as mobility is volatile, this flooding based or prediction based routing protocol may not be very appropriate in this environment. So what is the better alternative? Some problems are there as mobility is there. So the alternative, as one of the alternatives we have suggested that it may be social based forwarding. What is social based forwarding? You see, if you consider a community, in our previous lecture, Professor Bandyopadhyay from IIM Calcutta was talking about community and all. So community means social characteristic of our community, say long-term relationship between two friends. Relationship may be long-term and more stable. So we can exploit that idea of community relationship. Okay, we have exploited the idea of long-term association and more stable association instead of the typical conventional data forwarding parameters, network parameters, like shortest path technique, like flooding technique, like shortest hop technique. No, this is a completely different technique exploiting social characteristic of the nodes. Why the social characteristic comes into the picture? Because if you again consider the application post-disaster scenario, then you see who are the workers over there? Volunteers, rescue and relief operators. So they have their community. Maybe NGOs supply that volunteers. So if you consider that NGOs and all, they have their own community. If you consider Red Cross, they have their intra-community. If you consider Bharat Seva Sangha, they have their community. So we have exploited that this social characteristic during data forwarding. Now, social properties, positive properties which benefit the relay selection in case of data forwarding. These are the 4 parameters we have borrowed from social science: community, centrality, similarity, friendship. We will discuss one by one. Negative properties which hurt the network performance is selfishness. You know what is the meaning of selfishness? I am very selfish. I am bothered about only myself. Whatever data I have, I will forward it. I will not help anyone. The similar characteristic in node may behave like this because of many reasons. Because the node have realized that I am getting drained off of the battery power. So I can go to the conservative mode and I will be very selfish. I will not help anyone. So this is the negative impact. If the nodes behave like this, then it is very difficult to, because the network underlying understanding is that every node will behave in a selflessness manner. Everyone will help everyone. Community is usually defined as a group of interacting people. In sociological perspective, a member of a given community is more likely. See, these are the ideas you can realize from a social. This is nothing to prove or think. These are already there. So, a member of a given community is more likely to interact with another member of the same community. More likely, since wireless devices are usually carried by people, it is natural to extend the concept of social community into DTNs to explore interaction among wireless devices. Means, if the volunteers are from Red Cross, then it is very likely they will meet frequently. So this is the community concept. Centrality of a node is the measure of the capability of connecting other nodes in the network. If you are a celebrity, if you consider a celebrity, he is well connected. So the mobile device he or she is carrying, you can consider the most, centrality measure is very high. So this is the concept. Centrality is mostly used for relay selection in social-based data forwarding schemes. Means if I can somehow forward my data to a centrality, the node with higher centrality, then probability is very high that it will go to the destination because it is more connected. Centrality is mainly represented by two parameters. One is betweenness, the other is cumulative contact probability. So I will concentrate on cumulative contact probability, what we have used in our work. Betweenness is less effective than CCP. Why I am not elaborating here? Similarity is another property. We have not used this concept, rather we have used only the CCP concept. Similarity, it can be measured by the number of common neighbors between individuals in social networks. See, if you have to use, any problem? Any question? No. So there is a high probability of two people being acquainted if they have one or more other acquaintances in common. The second one. It's very natural. In a network, the probability of two nodes being connected by a link is higher when they have a common neighbor. It is also very natural. So these are all the natural things and natural behavior from where these parameters have evolved. Maybe the social scientists, they may know or they are in a position in a better manner to analyze all these parameters. Friendship is another concept in sociology which describes close personal relationship. In DTS, friendship can be developed between a pair of nodes. Two people carrying the device, they belong to the same community, it is quite natural, they may have a friendship. To be considered as friends of each other, two nodes need to have long-lasting and regular contacts. If you are friends, then contact probability must high. You can rely on them. Friendship in DTS can be roughly determined by using either contact history between two nodes or communication common interest contents claimed by two nodes. So why we are exploring these parameters? Because if you analyze these parameters, you will see the very interesting parameters with the help of which the DTN routing can be designed. I think I can skip this selfish involvement. You know, the communication means unicast, multicast, broadcast. Unicast means peer-to-peer. Multicast means if I want to have a packet, I want to send to my community friends. So it's multicast. Broadcast means for all. So most of the social-based data forwarding schemes mainly concentrate on unicast routing, existing schemes. Before us, we found 2-3 papers. Over there we have seen that they concentrated on unicast routing only. So single data multicast, only one research work we have found which is on single data multicast, means multicast routing. In SDM, in short single data multicast is SDM, a relay minimization problem is relay. What do you mean by relay? Say if you consider a network, relay means who will forward my data to another node. So a relay minimization problem is formulated for delivering the data to a set of destination. This is not our work, the existing one. Okay, existing research work. Centrality metric is used over there for relay selection. I am talking about the SDM scheme, the existing one of the existing scheme which considers single data multicast. Now, they have not considered the energy aspect. You see, if you to consider any such network. You see, network means the devices, low power devices. The nodes are low power devices. So energy is of utmost importance to consider. So energy constraint of the nodes is not considered in those existing social-based schemes. So we are thankful to them, they have not considered, that's why we put a scope to consider it. Now we have exploited the cumulative contact probability concept, CCP. CCP is formulated like this, indicates the average probability that a random node in the network has been contacted by n within time t. So this is a formulation, mathematical formulation. CCP is equal to 1 minus etc. Now where n is the total number of nodes, this is our word, and lambda ij is the contact rate between ni and nj. What is contact rate? Contact rate means one person being contacted by another person in which rate? How many times in a day? This is the rate. The objective is, this is our word, we have set our objective to deliver a data item to a set of destinations. How to achieve the delivery ratio P within the time constant T. You see, the time constant T depends on the application. It varies from application to application. If it is a very priority data, then the time constant will be very low. And if it is a very general data, maybe that is not prioritized, time constant will be less. So our concern is, if for application the time constant is given, and within that time constant, what is the delivery ratio? Whether we will be able to send the data or not. To what extent? Minimizing the number of relays. Why minimizing the number of relays? Because the more relays will be involved, the more, probability that the relays will energy will be drained off from that relays, and the total network lifetime will be less, will be reduced accordingly. While maximizing the selection of relays with high residual energy. Maximizing the selection of relays with high residual energy means, if within a network, if it is found that some of the relays or some of the nodes have higher residual energy compared to others, then definitely for load balancing means, so that our network will not die very shortly, to avoid that, the objective should be try to forward data through those nodes who have higher residual energy. At the same time, we must be careful about, if you select those nodes one by one and no other nodes are selected, then definitely that particular node with high residual energy will get drained fast. So objective is, this is a multi-objective formulation, and I am not going to go to the mathematical part. So minimization of one part and maximization of the other part, subject to these are the condition, the delivery energy. So in this manner we have formulated. We have given the name of the scheme, this is the extension of SDM, so energy aware SDM. Principle in our energy aware single data multicast scheme is reserve some nodes with high centrality for future use. This is the main crux of the problem. That centrality, centrality means, again you consider the celebrity person who is highly connected. So, reserve some nodes. Why the concept of reserve some nodes? Yes, the centrality node will be used, but some nodes with higher centrality need to be reserved as well, so that the network lifetime would be increased. At a time, all the nodes with centrality higher will not go down. Then you cannot extend, you won't be able to extend the network lifetime. Next, relay selection we have done based on centrality metric and residual energy. Now, relay selection procedure, you see, I think we can skip this flowchart, rather we can go to other example. because time already 1 o'clock past. So this example you better try to understand. This is the source node. Yes. These are the relay nodes. Actually, any node can work as source and destination and relay. Everyone has same status. No status is that different. Only if source node S wants to send some data and relay nodes R1 to R7 are deployed, you consider this scenario. And you see R1 to R7 are the contacted neighbors of S. What is the contacted neighbor means? R1 to R7 at the tth time when S tries to communicate with other neighbors means within the communication range of S, R1 to R7s are there. What is our achievable? Achievable, we have given for this example, delivery ratio should be 0.9 within time 22 hours. That is the constraint, time constraint. You see, these are the parameters we have considered. One is energy, the other is most probably delivery ratio. Animesh is there? Delivery ratio, yeah?
Probability of not contacting others.
Probability of
Not contacting others.
contacting others, yes. These are the two parameters we have considered, and at this tth time, you see the two, this instance, the values are shown. 0.3, 40% of R1 and according to all these things. Now next state is our algorithm says divide the contacted neighbors into two, high centrality and low centrality set, setting the threshold P is equal to 0.5. Highest residual energy in the high centrality set. What are those set? R1, R4, R6. Why? Because you see 40%. Highest residual energy in the high centrality set and low centrality set is 0.8, 54%. Anish, you come. You explain this.
First of all, R1, R4 and
Very quickly.
R6 are in high centrality state, and this R6 is of the highest residual. And so R6 will be first. So R6 will be first selected, and then R1 is the next highest. So after that, R1 will also be selected, and this R4. R4 will not be selected in this case, because in this set, R4 is of the comparatively lowest residual.
And that comes from the bottom.
So after that, this constants will be checked, and after that, in the low centrality set, and this R4 is not selected because it is of the comparatively low. And after that, in the low centrality set, so in this case, this constant is not satisfied, and after that, the relays will be selected from the low centrality set. and this R3 is of the highest residual energy, and so R3 is
Selected as the
so after these three nodes are selected, the network P is made and the process of relay selection is proceeded.
Actually, every time it sees that whether the condition is met or not. Whenever the condition is met, constant is met, it will select. And conservative approach means we have started like this. Don't use all the high centrality node at a time. Keep some in reserve. That is the low centrality. So that in future communication will be continued. Otherwise, what happens if right from the beginning, unlike other routing protocol, if go on using the same node again and again, then definitely some hole will be created and the entire network, the network lifetime, you see in this wireless network, the lifetime is a factor. Lifetime is a matter of concern. So once the network is there, the lifetime needs to be extended. Although in GTM, the concept of lifetime is little bit different. There is no scope to elaborate on lifetime here. But here, considering the lifetime, we have chalked out or we have designed or we have proposed in this manner. This is the results and discussion. Now regarding results and discussions, I can tell you that this is being simulated now. These are the graphs I am showing, only simple C language simulation. But we are planning, or rather already we have done, we have been able to get the result in one simulator. You know, one is a open source free software. The full form of one is opportunistic network environment simulator, and in the next session, tomorrow in the second half, there is a full session on one simulator. Okay, and today in the second half there is another simulator we will show what is called Quantiki. It's an operating system. With the help of that Quantiki, the part 1 discussion, what I discussed, that multimedia data processing, what we are going on, we are doing on that multimedia data processing, that will be demonstrated in the today's second half lecture, that is on Quantiki simulator. Okay, so these are the results, encouraging results, but we are not depending on these results. Rather, we are doing, we are improving for real life simulation, we are trying to run the algorithms in one simulator. Because you see, it's very difficult to crack the free open source simulator. That's why it's taking time. So it's very preliminary results. So although the results are encouraging, so what is going on to improve it so that it can be tested in a real simulator. Now the research issues, this is the last topic, all of you are hungry. So research issues is modeling simulation of DTN. You see, modeling simulation of DTN itself is a research issue. Till today, it's very difficult to get the simulator of relay tolerant network. So over there, the node mobility is there, is a concern. Data delivery is a concern. Queue management is another concern. You see, if I can hold the data, but there is no forwarding node in my vicinity, I have to hold the data for the time being. So there is a buffer management issue, that is my queue management. Routing is another issue. Of course, unicast and multicast. Security is another issue, end-to-end or low value. Now reviving communication is the other issue. What is node mobility? Incurs continuous change on the network structure, heavily deteriorate the quality of established wireless networks, at the same time give new opportunities for established contacts. So these are the issues, sub-issues of node mobility. Traditional models, uniform random walk and random direction. it's very difficult to get the mobility model. Will it be random one? Sometimes not. It is guided by the NGO people. It is guided by in our application area. So this is a challenge, and it will vary from application to application. To use the appropriate mobility model. Uniform, random walk and random reduction, these are the standard mobility model on which people are working, but we are even trying to find out the appropriate mobility model, and that's why our team has visited Nepal very recently to, probably they have got some data on mobility pattern as well, the Nepal art tour. It was a 3-day trip. Our teams visited Nepal very recently to get other data as well as the mobility pattern. Probably they collect the gadget with that to catch hold of that mobility pattern, the volunteers' mobility pattern. Data delivery, DTN is an opportunistic network, you see. Opportunity means if I get the opportunity, then data will be delivered, otherwise data will be either lost or it will have to wait for. Communication links are valuable resource, in this case, low node density, demand maximum use available links for achieving desired data delivery. So trade-off between the data delivery delay and transmission overhead is inevitable. You know, in any design problem there should be some trade-off. Here trade-off is, if you want to increase data delivery rate, then transmission overhead will be higher. That is not, recommended. So you have to trade off between data delivery delay. If you afford delay, then links will be not so used, so overhead will be less. Queue management. Node manages a queue that contains data ready to be transmitted. A node, upon contacting another employs queues management to determine data to be sent, data to be dropped. You see, if I am holding many data, now I have got one forwarding node. So then queue management need to take care which data needs to be forwarded first, depending on priority and depending on some other issue. Maybe in the worst case, some of the data will be dropped. So queue may be simple first come first serve or priority based. Now in the NGN, so I have touched 3 different things, very brief overview. One is next generation network, the other is the personal area network, what we have designed, and another is energy aware SDN. Now in case of next generation network, you see the challenges are dynamic topology. All IP, VoIP, quality of service, gadgets, people are moving. So, dynamic topology means that as the mobility is there, topology is being changed. You cannot give the guarantee who is connected with matter at what time. It's not static. The other is heterogeneity. You can carry a smartphone, I can carry a laptop. So heterogeneity of devices need to be there. So challenges are much higher. One is multiple services. Multiple services. Try to recap the diagram I have shown in the first few slides. That there are 4 layers. The different services. Okay? In the top layer. And standardization. Of course, as the heterogeneity is there, devices need to be standardized. Otherwise, one will not, interoperability will not be allowed. These are the challenges. In case of our design of personal area network with the help of modes, design the demo I have shown, the design of an appropriate routing, we have not considered this standard appropriate routing, rather we have used. So these are the research issue or future scope. Prototype development of CPU cell phone extension. I have not elaborated on cell phone extension because I have curtailed the lecture. It's typically a 3.5 hours lecture. So I have to curtail it. Cut fit into 1 hour or 1.5 hours maximum. So that's why it may not be, it's very difficult to make you understand all the issues. So prototype development of CPU, cell phone extension. Whatever design using the DTMA decoder, and it's a very circuit, it's a very primitive stage. So you have to commercialize, you have to make it miniaturized, it should be portable, it should be tagged with your low-end cell phone and all. These are the future scope. Design of the scheme replacing weight by smartphone that already I have mentioned. And the third topic I have touched is energy aware social based data management scheme. that formulate relay selection as multi-objective optimization problem may be extended for multiple data multicasting. See, up till today, what I have shown, single data multicasting, but we are working on multiple data at a time multicasting. Need to be implemented using a standard simulator, example 1. That also we are doing, and very recently, 1 week back, we got the result as well. So with this, I think I can conclude my lecture. I hope the next 2 days you will enjoy in this department. Due to some unavailable circumstances, I may not be available tomorrow or day after tomorrow, but I will try to go to Heritage Institute of Technology if situation permits on Friday or Saturday. So I may meet you, I hope that I will meet you on Heritage Institute of Technology, but I think you will enjoy your stay, and people are there, our co-PIs are there, Dr. Kamamunu Acharya will be there, and Dr. Saptoshi Ghosh is also present here. Maybe that he may not be here, but Dr. Kamamunu Acharya will be there, and PIs from Heritage Institute of Technology, Dr. Shivli Rai will be there, Mr. Shobik Basu will be there. They are from Heritage. If you need any, if you face any problem, you can contact them. Okay. So I am sorry, I apologize for not being present for the next 2 days. So these are the very old references, so don't ban on